Welcome to this NVC workshop. So this is the first NVC workshop for this series. It's a real honor to share this wisdom and way of being as well as communicating. This is such a simple process. There's not much to learn. There's probably more to unlearn because it's a different way of relating to people. We're very used to communicating in a certain way, especially when we're in a conflict of any kind, is by blaming the other person for having done or said something. So there's usually blame and there's sometimes judgment. But what's usually happening in these normal conversations that we have, and Marshall would call them jackal conversations, is that no one's really stating their needs. They may be stating their feelings, such as I'm really angry, but usually people are not discussing the right thing, and instead we're caught up in a conflict, and we all know them really well, and they go round and round in circles, don't they? And you never get anywhere with them, and it's just impossible to get through, right? I was with my ex-wife Clara just a few months ago in Holland, and we entered into one of those discussions that we had discussed 100 times when we were married together. But we were both holding NVC in the discussion. There was no fix in this discussion. There's no resolution, there's nothing that needed to change. There was just a sharing and a listening happening in a way that we hadn't done before. Why we use empathy when we're listening in NVC is to understand what they're feeling so that we can then hear their need. I was never able to listen without that dialogue. You know that dialogue? That one that's like, yeah, but you don't know, you don't understand, you don't know what I've been through, or whatever it is. To be able to just put that aside for a minute while you're listening is very precious door opener to actually getting anywhere. So I've made some important points here. So this first workshop, we are going to practice observation, and mostly I would say listening. Listening is a part of observation, but observation means taking in everything that's happening or that someone's telling you, not just the words. Empathically, how you feel with them, how they feel, their body language, the whole thing. Observing as best you can so that you can, as best you can, understand what they're trying to tell you. People aren't usually able to really tell you exactly what they feel or what's going on or even what they really need. The first part of NVC is this observation, and so we are going to practice listening to somebody of your choosing. It could be a friend, it could be your partner, it could be anyone that you're comfortable with, and you're going to invite them to share with you something that's upsetting them or has upset them. It should be a relatively minor, small issue. You shouldn't choose a really loaded topic for your first practice, especially because you haven't yet learned or practice all of these steps yet. When you're listening, you're not trying to resolve the situation in this discussion. You're trying to listen to that person. And in order to do that properly, because people don't tend to tell you clearly how they're feeling, is you listen with giraffe ears, which means, firstly, that you listen without judgment. So you just hear what they have to say. You don't interpret the words. You just listen without judgment of anything, including yourself. So if they're blaming you for something, this is the most important part, is to really hear what they're trying to say and not what they're actually saying. If someone's blaming you whilst they're communicating what they don't like or are uncomfortable with, you just need to hear the need that they're trying to tell you. And in order to do that, you have to listen without judgment, because you can't listen while you're trying to defend yourself, either just in your own mind or verbally. So we're going to practice this observation and specifically listening. When we're doing observation, we listen without judgment, and we use empathy as well while we're listening. Really, it's listening with the heart. We can listen with our ears, which is often happening with jackals, or we can listen with our heart and understand what's the person's really trying to tell you. And so while you are listening, you may not understand something that they're trying to tell you. It could just be a detail in the story. It could be anything. There may come a point where you need to ask a question, or you feel you need to say something, or you need to interrupt them to say something. The rule that I want to make really clear is that the only time you should interrupt and speak while you're listening is just to clarify any of the points or details that they're sharing with you. So speak to clarify details and to identify their specific needs. If you're listening to someone and they're not really telling you how they feel or what they need, but they're really just attacking and blaming, or not finding what that is, you can use your empathy, and you can speak and talk and ask questions that help you either to just clarify a point. So you could say, sorry for interrupting you, I just want to check if that's what you really meant. You repeat back something and mirror that back, and have them either clarify it or happily agree and see you're really listening, and then let them continue. Now, if you've kind of done all of that, one of the art forms of listening at NBC is helping them to identify their feelings and needs. So you can just ask them, how did that make you feel? Or firstly, help them identify the feeling, and then you can go and probe to find the need. And so finding the feeling will help you discover or help them discover what their needs were. That was the thing that was really upsetting them. And what you find is usually most of the complaints and conflicts and all this stuff boil down to someone's needs not being met. We all have these basic needs, and this list is on the post, and it's also a PDF. And it's a great one to look at while you're listening if you are not familiar with all of these needs, and even if you are actually, because while you're listening, some of these needs may come up that you think it might be a need of theirs. So you would ask the question based on the feeling and not the detail of the story. Even if they haven't shared that feeling, then you first discover the feeling. Did that make you feel angry or frustrated? Identify it, and then we can move on to getting the need. And so you can ask them, were you angry because, and you can look at this list, and maybe because you needed more freedom, because you didn't feel appreciated or valued, or did that make you feel disrespected? Do you have a need for intimacy, whatever it is? So that's all part of natural giving, and natural giving is really at the core of what we're doing here in NVC. And listening is a big part of natural giving. When you're sat down with someone and giving them your undivided attention, you're giving them really a gift. You're doing that out of the desire to do that, and not because you're going to get something fixed or get some more candy or whatever it is. This natural giving is just a feeling that you have, and we all have it usually when we're feeling really happy or something amazing has just happened. There's this feeling that you want to share it with the world or people or friends or whatever. And that's the feeling that's so important in NVC, and it's nurtured through good listening and empathy. That really is just this, like the water on the seed for what can then follow. That, I hope, gives you an idea of what this first workshop is about. If you didn't know already, there's 4 parts to this process of communication. This workshop will be split over 4 weeks, more or less. By the time you get to the end of the process, you should have a really good idea how to, not only what NVC is, but how to apply it to your life and how to apply it to real discussions. And you will have practice not just listening, but also making requests. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you on the second part.